Hey, and welcome back to another video for our Property Management 101 series, where we share with you how to successfully self-manage your investment portfolio. I'm Dave Hathaway, owner of Hathaway Property Management, where we successfully manage a 50-unit portfolio through specific systems and processes. I'm here to share with you how we do it and how you can too. Let's get into it. In this episode today, I'm going to share with you how we screen tenants and why it's so important. Once you place a tenant into one of your units, it's going to take time and money to get them out if you made the wrong decision. First thing I want you to think about is who your tenant avatar is. Your tenant avatar is going to be determined by a few different things: the location, property class, and by your overall market. What do I mean by all of those things? If you're in the inner city, let's say a rough neighborhood, you shouldn't be expecting to get a tenant with a credit score of 800 and a clean background check and have a job that makes $150,000. That is a wrong expectation. So you want to figure out what that tenant avatar looks like and what a good tenant looks like in that area. Next, you want to understand fair housing laws, not only because it is the law, but also because it's the moral and ethical thing to do. So the Fair Housing Act protects people from discrimination when they are renting or buying a home, getting a mortgage, seeking housing assistance, or engaging in other housing related activities. And the important thing to know is that there are protected classes in the Fair Housing Act, and the protected classes are race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, and disability. So you just want to be careful not to discriminate against any of those classes, which if you're just being a good person, you're not going to anyways, but it's just important for us when we're talking about tenant screening to just mention that you should understand what fair housing laws are. Next, I want you to know that you can be flexible when screening tenants. Sometimes tenants are bad in one area and really strong in other areas, and you can take that all into consideration. Sometimes you might have a tenant with a really bad credit score, and maybe they make up for it because they have an amazing tenant history, i.e. they've been in a property for 15 years and the landlord's selling, so they have to move. Maybe they have a great job, they've been there for 15 years and they make $85,000 or $90,000. So maybe they make up for things in other areas. So I want you to know that you can be flexible. Now, there are some things that I think you should not be flexible on. These are what I like to call the hard no's. There's 3 of them. The reason we have hard no's are because people are normally habitual creatures. And that means that if they've done something once, more often they are likely to do it again. So these are our hard no's that we will almost always say absolutely not to any tenant that has these. The first being prior evictions. Evictions are a pain in the butt. We do not want to deal with evicting a tenant. The second is felonies. If they have 1, 2, any amount of felonies, it's a hard no for us. We do not want crime in our property, and this is one way that we protect it. And the last is lying on the rental application. Sometimes this can be a little white lie. Sometimes it can be a mistake. So you have to determine whether it's an actual lie or they just made a mistake. But if the tenant is lying on the rental application, that is not somebody you want in your property. They are going to cause problems down the road, I promise you. As a side note, for those hard no's, we often tell people in advance that these are hard no's and that they shouldn't even look at the property if they have these. It's a waste of their time and it's a waste of our time. It just saves you a lot of headaches, so you don't have to look through information or look through applications that you already know you're going to say no to. Next, we're going to discuss the rental application. And in the listing description, we'll have a rental application that you guys can download for free and utilize if you want. But what is a rental application? What does it do? How do we use it? So rental application gives us a snapshot of that prospective tenant. So it's going to tell us where they currently live, how long they've lived there, if they have any previous addresses, where do they work, how long have they worked there, how much they make. So it gives us kind of a big picture of, do we think this tenant could be right? Do we want to move them on to the next step? This also provides a platform for us to cross-check information they provide to determine, hey, this person not only is a not good fit, but They could be lying. It gives us a lot of information. Once we've accepted a rental application or have been given a rental application and we've reviewed it and we like the information on it and we think the tenant could be a good fit, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next step in screening that tenant. And it's very important. Call and check on the tenant references. Tenant references are employer and previous landlord. We want to make sure that we speak to them and that we understand who they think that person is and if they want to recommend them. What happens here often is you'll talk to an employer and they'll either give you a super glowing review or they'll kind of give you a hee-haw review. If they give you kind of a mediocre review, it's something to kind of look into and do a little bit more digging. In essence, we want to use this rental application and this time to really investigate and explore anything that could be possibly wrong with this tenant. Also, in the digital age, it's easy to fake things, easy to fake salaries, easy to fake and just change a number on a form. When we're reaching out to the tenant's employer, we want to ask things like, hey, how much do they make per hour? What's their salary? And make sure everything on the form matches what the person's saying. Once you think you have a good fit with the rental application, you've called all the references, and you're moving on to the next step, which is credit and background check. You want to check any prospective tenant's credit and background. This could reveal things like bankruptcy, past debts, so the felonies that we talked about before. This is just another check on the box as you move the tenant along in the screening process. How do you do a credit and background check? We'll put down a reference in the video's description below. Many of the property management software systems or platforms like Buildium and Appfolio that you might end up using already have this built in. You can have the tenant send in their rental application through the platform, and then you can also do a credit and background check through the platform. Once you've done the credit and background check and you think the tenant is still a great prospective tenant, you move on to the next step, and that is required docs. So these are the required documents that you want to collect from a tenant prior to move-in. That is a driver's license, an ID or social security card, 2 pay stubs, and have a copy of their rental application and the credit and background check. Lastly, listen to your gut. So if a tenant seems perfect, but your gut is saying otherwise, you might just want to go back, look over their documents. You want to investigate anything that you want to investigate just to make sure. There is no redos when it comes to tenant placement. So make sure you're making the right decision when you place that tenant. To summarize everything that we talked about today, number 1, determine your tenant avatar. Number 2, understand fair housing laws. Number 3, remember the hard no's, evictions, felonies, and lying. Number 4, call the references on the application, no exceptions, employer, previous landlord. Number 5, get all the required docs, including the rental app, credit and background check, copy of the driver's license, and 2 pay stubs. And number 6, listen to your gut, investigate more if need be. Lastly, thank you guys for watching this video. We appreciate you. If you found this content valuable, we would really appreciate if you like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next episode of Property Management 101.